Happy New Year's, folks, and I'm finally delivering on this long overdue video. And by overdue, I really mean that. We're talking, oh boy, over 2 months here. So today I've got the new Inch Culturefly Huggy Wuggy plushie, which released in late June of 2023 following the rebranding of the Poppy Playtime website. So this is the 14-inch size one, and we're going to take a look at this guy and compare him to a bunch of the other official Huggy Wuggy plushies. After 2 months of torment sitting around in this house, still sealed in this plastic bag, he's finally being unleashed. For the better or for the worse, I have no idea. My first thing, wow, this guy is actually very small. Now I come to think of it, I probably should have opted for the medium size, that being 19-inch. This one's only 14-inch. Alright, so first impressions, this is looking to be a pretty good Huggy plushie. He's nice and soft, good fur, good structure to the fur, not too much fur fuzzing all over the place, which has been an issue with some previous Huggy plushies. Nice flexibility going on here, which I always like to see in the Huggies. Lots and lots of tags, a whole ass dictionary again on this Huggy, loads of them here. He's got the same kind of standard Playtime Co. tag that most of the Poppy Playtime plushies have had for about the past year now. That's become well established. Even a store hook on here as well. Right, his bow here is actually pretty well designed here as well. That's a noteworthy feature, by the way. We'll come to that after. Head structure, though, not too sure on it. It's not looking that great. Shape of it ain't that great. And the proportions, yeah, it ain't the nicest Huggy here. Alright, so that's just a quick overview of the 14-inch Culturefly Huggy, because we'll go more in depth with him as we compare him to some of the other officially licensed Huggy Wuggy plushies to determine which of these 4 would be the best choice. So to compare to the Culturefly Huggy here, we'll go from smallest to largest. So first off, we have the Phatmojo 7-inch Huggy. Alright, and now this one is without doubt my least favorite of the official Huggy plushies. This one is pretty horrendous. This is the worst of the worst in terms of Huggy faces. The proportions are awful. Tiny little eyes here. So now let's bring in the Culturefly 14-inch Huggy. Here's a size comparison. This isn't about sizing, by the way, because of course there are bigger sizes of this. We're not really comparing in terms of sizes. They're all different sizes for that matter. Alright, so in terms of price differences, the 14-inch Culturefly Huggy Wuggy is $24, whilst the 7-inch Phatmojo Scary Huggy is about $10. So, this is over twice the price, so he is twice the size, but let's see if we get twice the quality. Alright, so right off the bat, I think it's a no-brainer that the Culturefly Huggy wins against the 7-inch Phatmojo. I think it's pretty obvious. Really, the only advantage I would say the 7-inch has over the 14-inch Culturefly here is the head shape. I do think it's much better, it's much more triangular. It's bigger as well. Yeah, it's bigger, yet the facial features are fucking smaller. So when you get the combination of a larger head shape, yet smaller facial features, you just get a very disheartening appearance. And of course, I'll give Culturefly the benefit of having better facial features. It has a larger mouth. The eyes are closer to the mouth. The small one, I hate the facial features in this one. The mouth isn't done very well. The eyes are far too small. Doesn't have the pupils in the middle of them either, whilst the Culturefly one does. You get to the body, and this one is much more flexible. The bow / ribbon is done better on Cultureflies as well, just higher quality material going on, and it's also a lighter blue, so it's more distinct and more noticeable compared to this one, which is pretty much the same color as the fur of the plush. Furthermore, the 7-inch Phatmojo Huggy Wuggy lacks Velcro on both the arms or the legs, whilst the Culturefly has Velcro on both arms as well as both legs. Alright, so 14-inch Culturefly beats 7-inch Phatmojo. No brainer. Alright, up next we've got, of course, the 14-inch Culturefly Huggy versus the 14-inch Phatmojo Huggy. So the Culturefly is again $24, whilst this one is only $17. So you would expect this one to be better, but let's see. Again, I think Culturefly is getting beat out in terms of the head shape again. I think this head shape is pretty much perfect. It's perfectly triangular, and it's just the right size in comparison to the rest of the plush. I also think the facial features of Phatmojo's are done much better here. The mouth, it's much wider just to correspond with the wider and larger head shape. And it is pretty stylized here, but I absolutely love this stylization with these eyes and this teeth and all. I really love the way this face is done. While the facial features of the Culturefly Huggy are a lot more, I guess, squished on there. And in terms of the body, now they're actually very similar. They've got a very similar feel in terms of the fur and pretty much same quality of fur. Although I think the ribbon is done a lot better on Phatmojo's 14-inch Huggy. Again, it is darker and it does kind of blend in with the plush more, but it's so neat compared to Culturefly's, which still is, even though it's pretty well done, it is a little bit messy. However, 14-inch Phatmojo does not have Velcro on either hands or legs. So, who do I think is better here? I'm actually going to go with the 14-inch Phatmojo Huggy. I think the presentation is much neater on this one. You've also got thicker limbs here as well. You got a bigger head, and overall it just comes to be a little bit taller actually. And with it just being so much more neatly presented, I love the stylization of it. I really feel you're getting much better value for money with this one when compared to this one, especially since this guy is $7 cheaper. Alright, and last but not least, we have the very first official Huggy Wuggy plushie. This is the Warren James Scary Huggy Wuggy. Alright, now this guy is very large, much larger compared to the 14-inch Culturefly, so I really should be comparing one of the larger Culturefly ones to it, but we're not going to look at size here, we're going to look at the actual features. So yeah, this was their very first attempt at an official Huggy plush, and now we have tons of them, so there were some sloppy mistakes made. So the fur on this one is all over the place. You see, there's no consistency going with this guy whatsoever. He's just a big, massive, fuzzy furry, so he is. There were a lot of faults with this plushie. The facial features are pretty good, and so is the head shape. However, there were some faults, one of which is the bow tie here. You see, it's just totally come undone, and it can come undone very, very easily. There was also an issue with the legs, the way they're not really done like legs. They go straight down like this, so you can't actually get him to stand. And he's very stiff as well. And with a combination of these really stiff limbs and the pearly designed legs, you can't get this guy to stand or sit really unless you lean him up on something. So I'm actually going to go with Culturefly Huggy here. His presentation is much nicer. They've obviously much more perfected the kind of layout and how a Huggy plush should be done. His fur is much nicer. He's much more neatly presented. You got nice flexibility. It's much better done than this one. Alright, so for my overall rankings, my top pick for an official Huggy plush would be the 14-inch Phatmojo, followed by the 14-inch Culturefly, third place the Warren James Scary Huggy, and at last place the 7-inch Phatmojo.